I'm just below l'Aiguille du Midi in the French Alps, and I'm standing on a snow ridge that's about 12, maybe 15 inches wide, and I'm terrified. To the left of me, there's a drop of around 1,500 feet, and to the right of me, down there, it's the quick route to Chamonix. If you fall down there, the chances are you'll be falling for the rest of your life. But that doesn't stop climbers coming up here all the time, which means the French mountain rescue team must be ready to come out in all conditions. And when the weather's not as good as it is today and they can't use the helicopter, they have to go out by foot, day or night.
High up in the French Alps, 2 climbers are in trouble. The French mountain rescue team have just had a phone call from a woman in Italy. She says her husband has just phoned her on his mobile phone. He's stranded and injured on a cliff face where he's been climbing with a friend. The only information the rescue team has is that the climbers are somewhere around 12,000 feet up in one of the more inaccessible areas in the French Alps. This is a landscape of perilous peaks and sheer cliffs. Finally, they locate them. The climbers are stranded precariously on a narrow ledge high up on a sheer rock face. Quickly, the rescuers are winched down to help them, but it's a dangerous situation. The pilot has to keep the helicopter as close to the cliff as possible, knowing that if the rotor blades strike the rocks, they'll crash. For the rescuers, there's no alternative but a long and dizzy descent down the winch cable. The stranded climbers are both in their 60s with years of experience, but this route has proved too much for them. The man in the red helmet fell, injured his back, and can't go on. The ledge is narrow and dangerous, and soon it will be dark. The mountain rescue team wants to get the victims off the mountain fast, but first they have to make sure the climbers' harnesses are secure before they're winched up to the helicopter. The rescuers must also secure themselves to the rock face so they don't fall. First, the injured man is winched up to the helicopter. Next up is his companion. The rocks are loose, and the rescuers are also in danger. Without the helicopter, this rescue would have been a nightmare. To climb up to this location would take at least 10 hours, much of it in the dark. Both the rescue team and the stranded climbers would have had to spend the night on the ledge, which, despite the view, is hardly 5-star accommodation, especially with temperatures well below freezing. These days, the rescue team is constantly picking climbers off the mountain who've got themselves into near impossible and life-threatening situations. Climbers know that with a mobile phone call, they can quickly get lifted out of trouble. As soon as he's down, the injured man calls his wife in Italy to tell her he's all right. The rescue team wants to know what happened.
Well, he has a fragile back, and it hasn't bothered him for a long time. And he had fallen a bit this morning, and that hurt the back. And then he continued, and I had no problem. And then we had rain, and had to stay still in the little hole for a while, in an awkward position. And that, it seems, is the cause of the pain here. But he found it very difficult to climb. We expected to be stuck overnight, yeah. But that was not the first time. I've done many of those. But we were not really equipped for that, a bit light equipment. It probably would have been pretty wet tomorrow. And I guess he would have spent a bad night, and he wouldn't be very fit tomorrow morning. So I took the initiative I told him to call it home.
Because of the rescue team, the men have avoided spending the night on the rocky ridge. The mountains are dangerous at the best of times. Up here, the air is thin, the slopes are steep, and it can be bitterly cold. But climbers can also be a danger to each other, especially when they're roped together on a crowded ridge. If one group falls, they can pull other climbers down the mountain with them. These young climbers from Estonia have just survived a horrendous fall near the summit of Mont Blanc. They were climbing when some French climbers roped together fell above them. There was no time to get out of the way. They were all dragged 2,000 feet down the mountain together. The French climbers were taken straight to hospital in a critical condition.
There was 3 French persons, and we moved simultaneously. And they made some mistake, and some of them fall down to us, and we couldn't stop them. And so
three friends moving all together.
At the same
moving
time.
one to one.
They are lucky. They fell down from the top of the mountain.
Do you know how many meters it is?
It's around 600 or 700 meters.
Oh,
Yes, and you fall down all straight
yeah, all
through the
straight.
ice. The ice fall around 25 meters or 30 meters.
Yeah, so we tried to stop, but all these ropes, we were so messed up and we couldn't stop it. I want to be in hospital to my face correct, and also to see what is wrong with my back and my leg.
The mountain rescue team is amazed these 3 are alive. They fell almost 2,000 feet and appear to only have minor injuries.
My name is Putsi, and I am happy to see you alive.
Thanks.
Bye. Bye. Come on.
Okay.
Okay, bye. When you arrive, you don't know what's happened. You have peoples on the snow, blood everywhere, equipment everywhere. Then you have to be quiet and to be the organization of the rescue. You said, it's okay now, it's okay. Keep quiet, take a large breath and keep quiet, you are alive. We are busy of you and so on. Then I tell them a little story. Then they have the smile on the face. And then I said, now it's okay.
It's another day, and Dr. Jerome Moracchioli and the rescue team are scrambling to the sort of accident the team dreads. They've been told 2 climbers have fallen very high in the mountains, but they don't know exactly where. They're bound to be seriously injured, and every minute counts. The climbers are so high up, it's impossible for the helicopter to fly to with a full team. So Dr. Moracchioli has to be dropped at a refuge halfway up the mountain and wait while the rescue team flies higher and searches for the climbers. Dr. Moracchioli has to wait to hear if he'll need to go to the climbers once they've been found.
Just right now, we have absolutely no idea what happens, where they are exactly. We just have an altitude, 3,400, that's all. For the moment, the two secourists from PGHM try to find the two guys, and after, if they need me, they call me, and I go.
They've found them, and they're in a bad way. The helicopter rushes back to pick up Dr. Moracchioli. Everyone is anxious. The climbers have fallen all the way down a steep rock face onto a snowfield, and they're not breathing. Dr. Moracchioli will try and save their lives here on the mountain. The helicopter can't do anything but circle overhead. But it's too late. Both the climbers died in the fall. Their passports show they were Italians in their late 20s. Roped together, as one slipped, he dragged his companion to his death with him.
Sometimes we know before the takeoff that we are going to find someone dead. Of course, it's always difficult, and it could be worse when we discover like a couple or young people. Most of the time it's young people. That's why most of the time it's hard. It's always difficult to see dead people.
Coming up after the break, a climber is rescued, and the story of a man who fell down a crevasse. It's approaching midday, and the Chamonix Mountain Rescue Team is scrambling to yet another emergency. A climber has phoned to say he saw a man fall off a narrow ridge 2.5 miles up on a popular route to the summit of Mont Blanc. The climber couldn't say if the man he saw survived the fall, but the mountain rescue team know this ridge. It's a killer, and they're expecting this to be another body recovery. The helicopter flies the rescue team up the glacier and into the high mountains. As the team gets higher, the weather worsens. They spot the man, and a rescuer prepares to be winched down from the helicopter. Another climber has also made his way to the spot. Remarkably, the man's not only alive, he's standing up and doesn't appear to be seriously injured. Foolishly, he was climbing alone when he fell. He fell more than 500 feet and somehow managed to stop himself before falling further. He needs to be taken down and examined for internal injuries. The rescue team secures his harness and he's winched to the helicopter. Within 8 minutes, he's back at the rescue base, where Dr. François Lecoq examines him.
This man is very lucky because there are a lot of snow and he's falling only 150 meters down on the snow. So he's really in a good condition. Because normally we have more 50% chance of people death because it's only stones and they fall 300 meters. And his man stopped after 100 meters. It's completely normal. It's only some skin problem and maybe a small fracture. But this is nothing. For this place, it's very good for him. So he's going to the hospital now.
Last summer was the worst on record for injuries and deaths here in the French Alps. Every year, more and more people come here to climb and hike. Many of them climb with mobile phones, which give them a false sense of security. They sometimes take on challenges beyond their abilities. The mountain rescue team are on call here 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. It doesn't matter where you come from or what the problem is, whether it's a sprained ankle, altitude sickness or severe trauma, the Chamonix Mountain Rescue Team will come and get you. During the summer season, it's free of charge. Just 20 minutes after phoning the mountain rescue team, this man has been given first aid for his injured knee, and he's in a helicopter on his way to the hospital in Chamonix. It's all part of a service that makes the Chamonix rescue team among the world's finest. The Chamonix Mountain Rescue Team train constantly for the most dangerous accidents, and in the high mountains, they make it as realistic as possible. Members of the rescue team have been killed on training exercises. Today, they're practicing recovering an injured climber from a crevasse, a giant chasm in the ice on a glacier. This is something they do for real all too frequently. In the past year, they've pulled 20 people out of crevasses. Inside, the temperature is freezing, and if you're injured, you could die within an hour. If you fall down here and aren't seen, it could be hundreds of years before your frozen body emerges at the end of the glacier. The team works carefully. They know the risks. Some crevasses are easy to see, but others are hidden under a thin crust of snow. For climbers walking across glaciers, they're a constant threat. This man broke through the snow and fell into a hidden crevasse. Luckily for him, he was roped to his friend, who, with the help of other climbers, managed to pull him out. But he's injured and shaken. The mountain rescue team were quick to arrive. Now they've called for the doctor. The helicopter arrives with Dr. François Lecoq. The man has a dislocated shoulder that needs to be treated now, if at all possible. Dr. Lecoq gives the man, who's an engineer from the outskirts of Paris, a painkiller. He'll try and relocate the shoulder right here on the mountain. It could prevent later complications and be less painful in the trip down in the helicopter.
Les grandes inspirations. Respiration petit chien avec diaphragme. Laissez-le aller.
But Dr. Lecoq can't get his shoulder to go back in. It'll have to be done in hospital. The man is in pain and he's getting cold.
Le médecin avec la PGHM et puis après les deux gendarmes.
The doctor calls the helicopter back. For the man's climbing partner, the shock of what's happened sinks in. He knows they're lucky to be alive. The helicopter returns to fly the injured man to the hospital. After a short flight, he's at the emergency unit where the doctors and nurses are waiting.
When you fall in a crevasse, it's very classical to have a dislocation of the shoulder, because you can be shocked by the wall of the crevasse, or you can be stopped by the rope and so on. It's difficult to explain why, but we see a lot of dislocation of the shoulders in the crevasse accidents.
But even in the hospital, the dislocation is difficult to fix. Dr. Pascal Lenabat first tries the classic procedure, a combination of skillful manipulation and brute force.
Vous soufflez bien, vous, hein?
Je souffle.
He too is unsuccessful. They now have no alternative but to put the man to sleep so his muscles relax.
Allez, respirez fort. Non, attends, je vais te dire. 150, 15.
Ça brûle la veine de...
It's taken 2 doctors to get his shoulder back in, and it hasn't been easy. The next day, the man explains what happened.
Every time you go across a crevasse, you have to cross above a bridge of snow, and it's very classical. The bridge of snow has broken, and I slipped in the crevasse for 8 meters, and there were another 8 meters underneath, so it was so soon very, very cold.
There's no doubt that up in the French Alps, without the mountain rescue team and these helicopters, many people who have accidents wouldn't make it down.
Regardless of the dangers that these mountains hold, climbers, skiers and tourists still come here from all over the world. When the weather turns bad, they get into trouble. Join us next week for more adventures and rescues here in the French Alps.